Welcome and thank you for listening in on our latest Economic Outlook report with an exciting topic today as we're focusing on reopening the U.S. economy. This conversation is taking place on Wednesday, May 20th, 2020. Leading today's economic update is Prevedere's Chief Economist, Andrew Duguay. Andrew, we're looking forward to your insights on the impact of opening the economy back up. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Nicole. Looking forward to today's conversation as well. Yeah, I think there's a lot of optimism and positive news out there about the slow reopening state by state, region by region of the US economy. We seem to be past the peak number of cases, and this sheltering in place is starting to get lifted, and we can kind of resume more normal activity. Of course, as economists, we're studying what does normal look like, and to use a cliche, what does the new normal look like? After every recession, we know that there's lots of disruption, lots of change, and things don't necessarily go back to normal the way they were. And so part of what we're going to do today is, as we start to study and look at the different policies that are in place for opening back up the economy, we want to study what does reopening in an economy look like. There are certainly lots of jobs lost and will continue to be lost as we move through the end of May and into June, but how many of those jobs are going to be regained? So I wanted to boil some facts down to give us some kind of context for what the summer is going to look like. And you might see from my headline, what I feel like is that this is going to be a summer of disappointment. Yes, many people have had to already cancel their vacations, and that's disappointing as it is. But I think the real disappointment is going to come from the fact that a lot of people who filed for unemployment claims have filled out those forms and really expected these job losses to be temporary, right? And as soon as coronavirus goes away and the closures, the mandatory closures of non-essential businesses are lifted, we'll get our jobs back and things will go back to normal. A recent survey done in the last couple of weeks shown that around 77% of employees who lost their jobs actually expect to get them back. However, this is actually very different from what we've seen traditionally out of economic contractions and recoveries. Normally, what we see is that about 4 out of every 10 jobs that are lost during a recession tend to be permanent. And so that would mean that around 58% of employees who lost their jobs would actually get their jobs back. So the quick math tells you that about 20%, or 1 of every 5 who lost their jobs during this coronavirus, will actually be surprised not to get it back. So if these two facts hold true about those expectations about getting your jobs, and this study about 42% of job losses being permanent, which was a study recently done by the University of Chicago, means that there's this large gap, right, between expectations of things getting back to normal and what the reality will be. And what this means is a lot of job displacement. So if you take just those who are simply going to be shocked about not getting their job back, that their job has disappeared, that tally, that number is between 5 and 6 million jobs right now. If you look at current claims, there's new jobless claims coming out tomorrow, but this is just up through last week. And so that number is growing because we're still seeing about 2 million new jobless claims every single week. That's a huge tally. So yes, 34 million jobs were lost since March 2020. A lot of them will come back, but not as many of those jobs will come back as people are expecting. So I'm calling this the summer of disappointment. I think that what this will mean is that for many who are collecting an unemployment check, and some of those unemployment checks are higher than what they were previously earning, things are generally okay now, and they can have some level of optimism that their job will come back and everything will be okay. I think the real challenge is going to be for those that their job does not come back, right? And What kind of skill sets do they have? What kind of jobs are available in this new economy? Are they able to transfer their skills from their specific sector to a new sector, maybe even a new geography? It's very difficult and expensive to pick up and move. There's going to be a lot of challenges that people who lost their jobs are going to be facing this summer as we try to get back to work. Now, to put this into some context, I wanted to map out here and using some visuals here from CNBC put this together, wage replacement rates by industry. So what you're looking here at the x-axis down at the bottom is those on the right-hand side receive more on unemployment on average than they were receiving before they started to work. And you can see a lot in the retail sector and then hospitality, food services, and this is where we've lost, around 10 million jobs between retail and hospitality and restaurants in the US alone. And these are also the jobs that people who got laid off typically earning more. Then with the state unemployment plus the $600 from federal unemployment, they're typically earning more on average than when they were previously working. So for those workers, the reality might not have set in, and that's weird to say because obviously it's a terrible thing to lose your job, but I think the federal government has stepped up and said, we're not going to punish you for coronavirus as coronavirus happens. I think what this really means is that the big challenge is those jobs in those two big circles on the right-hand side, that there's going to be a lot of displacement in those jobs. And because you think about the new economy, a lot of these are very not social distance friendly occupations. And the new economy, there's going to be a lot of disruption. And a lot of these jobs are perhaps not coming back. And we've already seen several kind of bankruptcies of retailers and some job losses that were deemed temporary already turning into permanent job losses in the entertainment hospitality industry. You look across different companies, there's just new headlines coming out every week around that. So what this means is that right now these unemployment benefits extend through the end of July. For many, there's going to be this very interesting period over the next 2 months, right? So first, it's these businesses are going to open again. Then these businesses are going to assess what is demand, how many people do I need to hire back, and then they're going to start to slowly trickle and hire back people, but it's not likely going to be the amount that they initially laid off. And so many consumers are going to be in this limbo state all through the summer, and then reaching a point at the end of July, if we don't extend those unemployment benefits from the federal side, that extra $600 a week, there's going to be this very interesting point on what happens to all those people who remain unemployed, who their employer did not hire them back, and their unemployment benefits are about to expire in these sectors that are on the right-hand side of this graph. So different stages of stress, and I think we're just approaching the first stage as businesses are starting to hire back the first wave and starting to open again at limited capacity across most states. That's going to continue for a couple months, with July kind of being the grand finale to see how do we approach this time period where a lot of people are still going to be unemployed, and we might be looking at severely reduced benefits post-July. That's going to impact a lot of consumers. So when you think about all this dislocation of jobs, what we need to think about for the second half of the year, and really I would say over the next 3, 4, 5 years, is the fact that what recessions do is they disrupt job markets and they disrupt jobs. And this doesn't mean that all jobs lost will not be recovered. It also doesn't mean that new jobs won't be created. However, this does cause a lot of dislocation and job relocation. So I'm calling this the great reallocation. And this is going to be the period of our economic times coming here in the second half of the year, where we're going to be looking at many new types of jobs and what employees or previous employees are going to be able to take up those new jobs. So part of that University of Chicago study that talked about, 42% of job losses during a recession turn out to be permanent also studied, what about new job creation during a downturn, said that 3 new jobs are created out of this coronavirus period for every 10 jobs lost. So studying different businesses and different industries and saying, the Amazons of the world that are hiring new warehouse workers for every hotel worker that was laid off due to COVID-19. So what this means is 10 million new jobs, right? If we're looking at 30 million plus job losses since the beginning of March. This means hiring, training, reallocation. All of this takes time, energy, and even good government policy to encourage workers to be able to pull them off of unemployment and get them into a new job, maybe in a new location. All of this does take time, and this is one of the reasons that we're saying that even if the health crisis disappears tomorrow, that the economic crisis is going to last for a few years. And that's why, when we talk about a U-shaped recovery, we say that it really is not going to be the same shape going in as out. It's going to be slow. There's going to be a trough, and there's going to be a period where it's going to take new jobs to be created and filled and businesses to kind of retool for the new economy. And just to put some perspective, we're already looking at total job losses much higher than the last recession, but given the last recession was the worst since the Great Depression, we can use that as a reference. Last recession, it took around 6-7 years to recover all the lost jobs that started in 2007, 2008. So when you think about looking at this recovery, there might be aspects of this that turn around faster than the last one because the last one had a financial crisis component. And credit markets were tightened for a long time. However, what we are looking at is multiple years for the jobs that are lost to be recovered, and that is very typical if you look through any economic downturn in the past. And so part of that is the fact that hiring, training, reallocation does take a lot of time and energy, that people's skills aren't necessarily instantly transferable, and the fact that when we look at the sectors that are most vulnerable, retail, accommodation, food services, a lot of these are on the lower education area, and in some of the new jobs really might be in more of the skilled trades in different areas. It might require different levels of education than the jobs that were lost. So the jobs are not necessarily easily transferable, and it's going to take some time. So I think in summary, what we are looking at is a summer where we are very happy and excited about the states opening their economies back up. However, when we think about all the disruption that's happened over the past 8 weeks, there are a lot of jobs that are lost that are not coming back. And this is going to slowly play out over the summer with this balance between unemployment benefits and businesses being able to hire the workers they need, and also this new economy where millions of new jobs are getting created that were not there before, and trying to fill those. And whether somebody who has been laid off is going to be able to navigate through the summer and be able to get a new job before their unemployment benefits run out is really going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. And I think what we're seeing right now is that there is a bit of a gap between people's expectations about the economic rebound and what the reality is going to be with the jobs available as the summer progresses.
Wow, thank you, Andrew, for providing us with your perspective. We've certainly reached a vital milestone, but understand now it will take time and what that might look like. If you have any questions for Andrew, please feel free to contact us. The contact information is on the screen. That concludes this economic update. Stay tuned for follow-up presentations. Thank you.